ladies and gentlemen, I want to get into right away the ROG Xbox Ally S and X. The pre-orders went live. Look, I'm going to say this right now. Shame on ROG, shame on Xbox for going up this process. I understand that, and I do have it on pretty solid confirmation that there were a lot of moves and a lot of changing parts up until the actual announcement. And of course, that concerned the pricing. Now, again, this is just some backroom stuff that I have heard. The price, the original leaked price, was what it was: $549, $899. That is what they were aiming for. That was what the suggested price was going to be. And then things happened in the world. Tariffs. I know, but nobody wants to talk about it. Everyone's tired of hearing about it. And folks, I hear you. I'm a regular guy, just like you, right? I mean, I pay my taxes, and everything's expensive for me just as much as it's for you. I get no bonuses or no discounts anywhere. And then obviously we saw the change with the series consoles, which I think is disastrous. If it was a hot selling item like the PlayStation 5, let's say, I'd say greed. They were being greedy, and they figured, you know what, we're not going to take loss anymore, so we're going to put those costs onto the consumer. This move, I thought, is just stupid because they're not selling consoles. They were having trouble selling consoles, and now nobody's going to buy them. Now, granted, I think the saving grace for Xbox is the multi-platform thought and theory, where their games are going everywhere. I also think the play anywhere situation really pushes the narrative forward for them because, listen, at the end of the day, and I think we all know this is not a surprise, ladies and gentlemen, selling hardware is important, yes. But there's a difference from selling hardware in 2025 than it was 10, 15, even 20 years ago because, again, old world thinking, you take your hardware, you sell it to the consumer, you take a loss on that hardware to make it attractive and affordable for your consumer base, and then you get them with what? Software. And then obviously as the years went on, you got them not only with software, you got them with microtransactions. And that's how they subsidized the loss of the money up front on the console. Well, that's not the case anymore, folks. We know that Xbox was taking massive losses on each console sold. So every time they didn't sell a console, they probably made money. And Sony raised their prices. Nintendo raised the Switch. There's a rumor that the Switch 2 is going up in price, potentially $50. It may be at some point $499 without a game, which would be kind of shitty, to be honest with you. But it may happen. But I say all of that to say, ladies and gentlemen, that the ROG Ally and the Ally X finally became pre-orderable, and we got the official pricing. And the official pricing was a bit of sticker shock for a lot of people because there were rumors that it could release at $1,000 for the X model, and well, guess what, folks? That's what it is, $999. And of course, the S model, which is what I'm going to continue to call it, is $50 more. So it's $50 for the smaller model, $100 for the bigger model. Now, for a lot of people, that extra $100 was like, nope, too much for me. Shout out to a lot of people in the chat, and I'll do the poll in a second, folks. I want to get your thoughts. But we'll start first with Crispy Bomb. Crispy, look, I think that let me just say this, Crispy. I understand the hesitance of having to make this announcement because it wouldn't have worked well at all in Microsoft or Asus's favor if they announced 3 weeks ago that this device was $899 and then somehow or another raised it $100, right? That would have been disastrous. I obviously I can't say Asus is a $1 billion company because I don't really know them. Maybe they are, but these are corporations that forecast this kind of information. They're privy to it. They're on the ground of it. Their ears to the floor. I don't think anyone's surprised that Asus and Xbox that they had to raise the price. I think they expected it. But the question leads is, or do gamers have $1,000 for a handheld? Because I'm going to say this right now. If the handheld's $1,000, talking to somebody in the chat like Brett Bingham, who I talk to Brett almost every day through DM, the next console could be $1,500. Now, it's going to be powerful for sure, but I think that the days of companies like Sony, like Nintendo, and especially like Xbox subsidizing and taking losses on these consoles, I think that shit is done. I want to get your thoughts on this, man. $1,000 is a big investment, and obviously there's an S model, which and we'll get the what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the technical aspect for Fuzzy, who kind of really knows his business and why the S model is really worth its weight in gold. We'll get into all of that, but Crispy Bomb, let's get your thoughts on this, man. $1,000, and interestingly enough, we have the fact that it has sold out in a couple of places. As a matter of fact, we have information that comes the way of, was it VGT? Let me see if I can find the story real quick, where it sold out on the Microsoft store. Asus is selling there. Of course, they're going to sell it because they're the company that's making it. And the only other place you can buy the X model, from what I understand, is Best Buy, which is where I got it from. Now, you can still get the S model from Amazon, and there are a few other stores that you can, and I'll pull up all the stories and give you the actual 411 on that. But let's get your thoughts on the bit of a sticker shock for a lot of people at $1,000 for a handheld, Crispy.
Yeah, I mean, we look at it, and a lot of people bring up all these other PC handhelds and all that. It's a little weird for me that Xbox is like, okay, like $1,000, because the Xbox brand's attached to it. Obviously, Asus and Xbox have to, collaborate and figure out what they're going to do here. So I don't know what we're going to have in the future. And I almost feel like people are probably looking at the X model as an investment at this point. And I only say that because I'm already seeing people trying to sell it for $1,500. So it's really crazy that we've gone from getting mad about the PlayStation 3 price back in the day to now we're looking at a possible generation in the upcoming one of being a possible over $1,000 under the TV box. And obviously there's features that many people haven't experienced. And I think that's probably the selling point for this right now, especially with the newer AI chips and all that. This is stuff that is going to be ongoing. In normal terms, I would be like, okay, let's wait. Like I would be a type of person, I'll wait until the price drops. Not probably going to happen. I would wait for the features to kind of go through the motions and be implemented better and better, because still to this day, we kind of wonder if the Series X actually is using everything that is in it. And I think that's why we didn't get a mid-gen refresh. So you look at what they're doing, and they're trying to give you an option, which that's probably the point that many people would say, the option of getting this Ally X. That said, the Ally S, I mean, that if I'm going to do it, I would get that just because it seems for the price much more logical. And we have to realize that there's probably a lot of people that are not technically spending the $1,000 up front. There's a lot of payment plans out there now. You have credit cards and other such things. So let's not like everybody's just like, bam, here's $1,000 Best Buy, or you know what I mean? So it's definitely, it has clearly sold out. So people want it. My question is how many people are going to play it, or it's just an investment. And I think that's a bad thing to be thinking about when it comes to gaming now. And realistically, we're already at that point. And like I said, when I bought my Series X, I didn't realize it was an investment now. And that's where we're at. And I think it's a little sad because I feel like it's pricing a lot of people out of, moving to another generation. There's millions of people still on the last gen. Millions. And as these games come out, to be honest, like when GTA comes out and people want to play it and you can only do it, they're going to be spending $400 to $500 on a generation that's been out for 5 years. It's just, it's not right in general. And also living through all of these generations over my lifetime, it kind of makes me sad. And I think the only thing that's a saving grace for Xbox is you can buy a good TV and you can play through the cloud. But at the same time, people, used to love having that box and have that dedicated, box under your TV and be able to play your games and be able to download them. And, like, when are we going to see disk drives disappear completely? These are things that, over time we've all just had all of these options, and some of these options seem to be disappearing. And I think, $1,000 is a lot of money. And unfortunately with this, is it going to go up at some point? And that's just crazy to think about.
That's a phenomenal point. What happens if it does go up? Yeah, so you might want to jump in now. But you know what? Great points all around. And obviously, we're gonna, this is gonna be an evolving conversation to have. But let's bring in Korkenstein, get his hot take on it. Day one for you, yay or nay, and thought on the price, the sticker shot.
No, it wasn't a day one purchase. For me, as much as I wanted to, and the FOMO was kind of getting at me, because I would probably go through Best Buy, and for Best Buy, the tax on it, I think I did some little bit of like testing on it. I think it's like an extra $100. So now you're paying like 104 for taxes. So that's now 1,104. I buy because of my nature of my job. It's a warehouse. I work around large, machinery, things like that, planes, things, all that nature. So it's very easy in case something gets damaged. So I always buy the warranty plan. I always do 3 years. So that's like another $309 from Best Buy. So now I'm looking at almost 1,500 for it. And I'm just right now, I'm not really too engaged on it. What I'll probably end up doing is I'll wait till open box. A bunch of people are
That's a
probably going to buy it.
really great idea, brother. Smarts.
Yeah, a bunch of people are probably going to buy it. They're going to be like, yeah, you know what? This might not be for me. Handheld's not for me. You're going to get at least 1 or 2 maybe returns, and I'll buy it for open box for $200, $300 cheaper. And it's basically a brand new unit that was probably played maybe 10 hours max. So yeah, I'll probably wait for open box, see what the prices are then, and then kind of go through that. I think it's a great machine. It looks cool. I kind of feel bad because, yeah, I mean, you had a lot of people going out there. I spoke to this employee and they said it was this much. And now everyone's writing 40 articles based off of some employee that has really no idea. And now everyone's expecting $8.99, and then releases now it's almost at $9.99. It's $100 more, and people are outraged. It's just, I guess, the con of insider culture, or insider culture. That kind of, I think, soured some people on the price tag. It honestly, it's in line with most of the stuff that's coming out now. Especially when you compare it from last gen's ROG to now this gen to what's coming out now. It's way more value, is more than $100, because the old ROG is, I think, $8.99 right now. And this is way, way better than what that ROG can offer, and it's only $100 more. So I think comparatively, the price tag isn't too bad when you look at what it offers. I know you have someone like Jason Schreier who's like, I can get my Steam games and my Steam Deck runs perfectly. Hey, that's cool. But as soon as you try and do something outside of the Steam ecosystem, it sucks. It's horrible. It doesn't really run anything that great outside of the Xbox, outside of the Steam ecosystem. With something like this is a Windows device that can go around anywhere. So yeah, I mean, you get a lot of people that are just bad faithers. I think I saw one take where somebody was like, "Oh, it's too rich for my blood." This was the same person that ran out and bought a PS Pro for a game that hasn't even released yet. So I mean, you want to talk about too rich for your blood? Yet you're running out and buying $900 consoles for games that aren't even out or have a release date. So I mean, come on, it's a little hypocritical. So I think it's silly. The people that are outraged by this, it is just definitely, I know, trying times. People that don't think it's tariffs, it's tariffs. When you look at Europe, that's what I think it's like $100, $150 less compared to us. Like Europe, for once, isn't getting screwed on prices. When it comes out to them. So yeah, I mean, it's a cool system. I think this isn't going to be for everyone. I think this is just another entry point for people to get into the ecosystem where they want to play it. And if you have the disposable income, I think the real bread and butter here is going to be the S model. The S model. That's what's really good. I mean, Kay Asante said it. I think he got hands-on time with it in Gamescom. And yeah, he was talking about it. He's been saying this since Gamescom that's going to be the go-to model for most consumers. Is going to be the the $599 one. So we'll see how people take to it. Some people don't want, the biggest, baddest machine. They just want to play something handheld. They're looking to upgrade maybe their Steam LCD, that's been sitting for a few years. It's reaching its age, things like that. And they want to open up an ecosystem, and they want to have the play anywhere experience that Xbox offers on it. So it's overall, I think Xbox is playing it smart. They learned from the Series S, so they came out with 2 different SKUs with it, and it's gonna find somebody that wants to play it somewhere. And you can already see these are selling out. I mean, whether that's because they did the Legion Go where they limited supplies severely, because they know $1,200 price tag is a lot. Maybe they did the same thing here. But I mean, it sounds pretty cool that it's selling out everywhere. I think handhelds do have a place in gaming, but I'll be interested to see once reviews are out how this stacks up compared.
You made mention of what's in the box. What's in the box is the I think you're onto something. I think it's way more powerful than what a lot of the other handhelds. Now, granted, like for instance, you look at like Kiyosante consistently talks about the Claw, and the Claw is a gorgeous machine. 8.8 inch screen. But what I love about the ROG is that it's form fitting, and it really is built for Xbox gamers because the grips itself are just like holding a controller. So you know what? Let's bring in the experts. Of course, Fuzzy Belvedere, brother. Let's get your thoughts on the price, whether or not the Z2 being in there is worth the additional $100. And I do want you to take the lead in what Korkenstein had to say about, okay, so the $549 price you believed was phenomenal. Yeah. It's now $50 more. It's $600. And then when you add some tax into it, it's a pinch under $7. Is it still worth its price of admission?
I believe so. Like I said this early on, like I figured that was going to be 600 out the gate. So the 549 was like a gift, I guess you could say, but all gifts aren't always what they seem, I guess. But at $600, I think that is still worth the money. When you compare it to a comparable Steam Deck, I think outside of like the OLED screen aspect, I think this is a worthwhile expense at 600. Yes, I know it's more than like your traditional console, but think of it as being able to take that console anywhere and having a screen built in. That's where some of that extra cost comes in. Now, you won't get graphical fidelity of a Series X, obviously, but for I think it's like a 7-inch screen, you're like anything that's running at 720 or even 1080 is going to look great on that smaller screen. And then you have the option of putting purchasing a dock, which I've said this on Amazon before. They start at like $40 for decent ones that have HDMI and a couple of USB ports. So that way you can hook a controller or you can hook a mouse and keyboard. I think this is the best value overall. It's much like the Series S in a way until the price hikes to some extent. But I think at 600, if you are looking to dip your toe into the PC handheld space, I would say this is probably the way to go. Now, obviously, the Ally X is going to have a lot more features. It's going to be a lot more feature proof or future proof to some extent. Although I would say either of these devices are still going to be able to play games that you see on Steam or the Xbox store, 5 years from now. Will it play them with all the bells and whistles on? Probably not, but you'll be able to play them at a decent clip with a decent fidelity on a handheld that will probably outdo the visuals you see on a Switch or even a Switch 2 for that matter. Now, the Ally X price at $1,000, it's at the point where I didn't want it to be. I kind of suspected that this price was going to be the price overall, but I was hoping, considering how well priced the S model is, I was hoping that they would kind of keep it $100 below like the max out spot. Like the max out spot for the lower model is 700. I think once you get to 700, then you really should start looking at the Steam Deck, or even like a leftover Ally or ROG Ally model, or even an older like MSI Claw or something like that. For the more expensive model, at that point when it's at $1,000, given what we've seen as of late with console prices going up, I'm hesitant to say wait for a sale. Typically, these devices a year out usually see roughly $100 discount, but everything is upside down world. Like handhelds, it's still the case. Like traditionally, the same chipset. So these being Z2, when the Z3 comes out, for example's sake, the Z3 will probably be more than what these are. The Z2 should get like $100 discount. So that way you would see it at $899 like it was originally supposed to be. But we'll see how things go. I think at $1,000, it's still a good value. It's teetering on my max expense range. Luckily, there's a state of Delaware right nearby where it's zero tax. So I
there
can
you go.
always.
That's what I'm talking about.
I know you're not supposed to go across state lines to make purchases, but I did it for my TV that was over 1,500. I've done it for many other things. So, yeah, if you have a state that's nearby that's zero tax, I would suggest possibly considering that if it's within normal driving distance, as long as it's not like a long road trip where the gas winds up eating up the savings you would save in tax. But I don't know. I'm probably going to wait a little bit because behind the scenes, I've been spending a lot of cash on film equipment. So I just got the DJI RS4 gimbal, just got the camera set up. I have a anamorphic lens on order, which the manufacturer isn't shipping. So I got to order another one so I get it in time for a project that's going to be next month. So I don't know. I'm probably going to wind up getting the Ally X, but it's not going to be at launch. It will, I think, release date's what, October 14th or something?
16th. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. It stands a good chance that I'll be able to swing it, but we'll see. Because I'm not a fan of using credit cards, and right now being retired, limited budget, so it's like, yeah, I got to make every dollar squeal and holler as long as it can, kind of thing. But it's still a reasonable price, just not the price I was hoping for. Because at 900, I was still a little, against it. I was hoping they would go as low as 800, like a 600 and 800 price point, but it wasn't in the cards. I understand this is a 24 gigabyte of memory compared to the other ones that you're seeing out there that are over 1500 being a full 32. But 24 is going to be more than enough for this handheld to take care of a lot of games, even games down the road like whatever Cyberpunk 2077 Part 2 might be, or the sequel. Same thing with Witcher 4, playing that on one of these devices. I think you'll be quite happy with the results. But the prices are not as great. Whether it's greed, whether it's tariffs, whether it's a mix of both, whether it's just opportunistic timing, I guess. We'll see. Let's just hope, some of the tariff stuff gets rolled back. Let's just hope that some of these companies start competing with each other as far as reducing price on similar chipsets. So that way, hopefully things scale back a bit. But that might not be for 6 months that we see any of the benefits of that. But then again, in 6 months, they could boost it up another 50 or $100. So we'll see. I would say the getting is good to get in now, especially on the lesser model. The X, just keep an eye out. If things seem like they're going to ramp up on tariffs, you might want to hurry up and put that order in, and at least get in while the price is as low as it's probably going to be for some time.
I have a question, and this is really focused towards you, Fuzzy. So there are a lot of gamers like me who have been gaming for a very long time. We consider ourselves the OGs of gaming, right? I don't have, I'm not building my own PC, folks. Could I do it? Sure. Do I want to do it? Will I ever do it? No, right? But if someone like me was looking at both of these handhelds, now, of course, my mindset and the way I game has always been, I want the best of the best of the best, right? And not because I'm full of it, right? Or I can afford to have these, splurges, 3, 4, 5 times a year, because I honestly can't. Like you, I'm retired. Pension is great, but it has a limitation, right? We all know that. But my question to you is, what if someone does not have the technical knowledge and they're looking at both of the devices and they say, well, this one is $600. It's the S model. I've never been into PC gaming. Should I get this one, or am I cheaping out? And the real question is, if someone goes with the S model, or what are they really missing? And would it be that missed if you go from a $500 device to, or $600 device to $1,000 device?
I think the big thing is, if you're the gamer that must have the Elite, I would say lean more towards the X. The haptic triggers are definitely going to, give you that same comfort feeling that you have with your Series 2 Elite controller. If you're fine with a standard controller and losing some of that haptic feedback as far as the triggers are concerned, then I would say the S model is probably the best way to go. Now, here's the key thing. If you're going to hook it to a TV, just know it's going to be along the same lines as far as visuals to what you would see on the Series S. If this is fine for you, like let's say your Series X console is your primary deal, but you wind up going on road trips with the wife like I wind up doing, the Series S version of that Ally is going to be great for you. Whether you're taking it on the trip, like if you're on the plane, playing it on the plane, having some of the PC versions of the games downloaded directly to it, you'll be fine. If you feel like paying for Wi-Fi, or if you're doing the hotspot thing, which I haven't been on a plane in a while because I'm afraid of flying, then you're going to have the option to do some of the streaming stuff. But all in all, I would say the Series S version of that Ally X, or the Xbox Ally, is only going to be a burden if you're the type of guy that wants ray tracing, that wants to play the most visually stunning version of what's that game, Black Myth Wukong, on this. Or if you want to have ray tracing on Cyberpunk 2077 on a smaller screen, you might want to bump up to the X. You're probably not going to notice not having ray tracing on the smaller screen because everything is going to look crystal clear. But as far as those reflections, it'll be screen space reflections on the lesser model versus the X possibly being able to do ray tracing, but you're going to probably be capped out at like a 30 frames per second type of deal. If you were to try to do that on the lesser model, you could possibly get some of the ray tracing effects, but you're going to, the sacrifice is, instead of it being a smooth 40 frames or smooth 60 frames on that device, you might be struggling between 24 to 30 frames on it. And that's not going to be as comfortable to play as if you turn off the ray tracing, maybe scale the shadows down a notch or two, and then play it that way, and you'll have that smooth 60 frames deal. Most of us that are on console, that lesser model is probably right up our alley, and it'll be future-proof enough for, I would say, by the time Witcher 4 comes out, that's when you may want to consider doing an upgrade. but you'll still be able to play games like Witcher 4 or whatever the sequel is to Cyberpunk. It's just that it won't have whatever new reflections and specular highlights, but you'll still have like the sun rays, and you'll still have the HDR coloring and all of those other good things that you've seen on like the Series S model console. They'll be able to be on that screen. It's just that it's going to be either 720p or 1080, but keep in mind, smaller screen doing 720 looks great. It's not like 720 on your big TV type of thing. But when you do connect it to the HDMI and run it on your, like on a hub or on a dock to your TV, expect Series S visuals on it. And if you're fine with that, that's a perfect $600 device to go along with. The extra $400 for the other one is only if you have to have like the highest settings on a device and try and hit the 60 frame on most games, and then it may have to be 30 frames on like whatever the sequel is to Cyberpunk's 2077 type of thing. So that's, hopefully that gives everybody a good reference on what they should go for in comparison.